Hey everyone, Casey Scanlon here, going to give you another Lake of the Ozarks fishing report. It's the first week in November and the fishing's changed a little bit since our last report. I gave a report last week, water temperature was close to 70 degrees and now we've had some really cold nights, 3 or 4 nights that were in the 20s and 30s. Had a big front come through which pushed maybe an inch of rain or so through the lake area. So we had some things changing. We had really clear water last week, higher than normal temperatures, and now things have come back down to normal. We've got a little bit more color in the water now with that rain, and especially in the upper reaches of some of your creek arms, whether it be like Gravois or one of the Nyanguas, something like that, or some of your bigger creeks have some stain in the back of them as well. So it's really helped put some color throughout the lake. Last week, I said the water temperatures were anywhere from mid 60s to 70. And now they're dipping into those upper 50s, mid to low 60s. So we're starting to get back on track. Things are starting to look more like November. It's been really hot and not a lot of current going through the lake. And we've had just gorgeous days, which hasn't led to a lot of great fishing, unfortunately. Fall's been kind of up and down like it normally is. One of my favorite times of year to fish, though, because it keeps you on your toes. There's a ton of stuff going on and you can go out and do something different every day and be successful and learn from it. So the fish right now changing a lot. Like I said, water temps are changing. The water level itself is low, so there's not a ton of shoreline cover in the water. And the fronts we've been getting has the fish kind of back and forth. Not a ton of big shad up. All this fall, the shad have been different. Normally there's a lot of big shad up shallow. Normally there's a lot of thread fins that are kind of roaming around out there in open water towards the backs of creeks or on the main lake, really just everywhere. And you often see fish pushing the surface, chasing them, stuff like that. And we just haven't seen that a lot this fall. I haven't seen a whole lot of surface activity, not a lot of fish busting the surface, eating shad, not a lot of white bass. And this past week I've started to see some of that. So the fish know that winter's coming. They're getting hungry, and hopefully they're really going to start biting for us because it's been a little stingy lately. So we'll start with the rod I got closest to me. And this is a bite that's going to be coming on strong. Caught a couple last week on it. And it's just going to be getting better and better. And that's the Alabama rig. So Alabama rig, really versatile tool. Great tool for cold water. Got it on 25-pound Bass Pro Shops XPS fluorocarbon. I've got this one on a 7'10" Johnny Morris Signature Series rod. I don't throw an A-rig much, so I kind of designated this one to the A-rig a couple years ago, and that's all I throw on here. It's a big rod, long. You can make a lot of long casts with it, accurate, and I like a bigger, heavier rod, especially with the fluorocarbon. I think I get a few more bites with the fluorocarbon. On this lake though, you got to really be careful with the fluorocarbon because if you get this thing snagged, they're not very cheap. Threading these swim baits and these jig heads and on here takes a lot of time and energy. One reason I don't like throwing this. But the rig itself is expensive. And if you get it snagged with the fluorocarbon, chances are if it's really hung up, you're not going to get it back. So braided line is good as well. We had some really clear water, so I went with the fluoro. But I like a 50-pound braid on this, 65 a lot of times when they're really aggressive. I use some white swim baits on here, change it up, switch it up to the water clarity or the sky conditions. I was fishing in a little bit more off-colored water, and we had some real dark skies last weekend. It was rainy, cloudy, nasty, and that white just shows up better. I've got, I think those are Bass Pro Shops 3.8-inch speed shad swim baits. Love that Bass Pro Shop swim bait. It's a little thinner than like a Kitech. Same length, same grade action, just a little bit thinner profile, which I really like, and it doesn't tear up as easily, which is even better. So, when you're throwing it on an A-rig or a jig or, as a trailer, if it gets torn up, you know, you're just not going to catch those fish, you know, on that particular bait. And a lot of times when it slides down the hook during a retrieve, you don't realize it, but you're not going to catch a fish on that cast if it's looking goofy. So I like it. I like a durable bait. I like to use super glue. I like to keep it up there. You know, so when I do miss a fish and it keeps the bait from getting fouled up and I have a chance to catch that fish again, maybe he'll come back and strike it. So really important. But Alabama rigs is going to be kicking off. Chase the wind, chase the shad, and use your Garmin Panoptics, man. Use the Garmin live scope to stay on those fish. Put that A-rig in front of them and catch them. It's easy to see on the live scope, and it's easier to target those fish. It's a great way to learn what you're looking at. So, Spinnerbait, my all-time favorite. Trophy Bass Company, Ozarks Flash. I'm going to experiment with sizes. I'm going to experiment with colors based on, again, water clarity and the condition of the sky above, you know. So I just want something that looks good in the water, that stands out, a lot of vibration. Spinnerbait's going to get you big bites. So going to chase the wind, primary points, secondary points, windy banks, bluffs, chunk rock, shallow flats. Run this thing through the middle of the shad. If you see the shad busting, if you see a dark spot in the water, which is usually a lot of shad, like if it's on a flat, it's just a school of shad moving around, roll that right underneath them, in the middle of them. A lot of times those fish are hanging out in there and they will bite this. I love throwing this behind docks this time of year. It's just a good place to throw it. Not a lot of pressure back there and the fish are getting tight because of that pressure. Lay down logs, any kind of shoreline cover. I'm going to spin this spinnerbait right past it, work it down the side of boat docks. It's a very versatile bait, catches big fish, and you know, honestly, I've thrown this Trophy Bass Company spinnerbait all year, all over the country. I've got 2 top 10s on it this year in Bassmaster Opens and thought I was going to get several more on it based on my practices, but it's a good bait. It works everywhere. People put it down, you know, after the spring or, you know, after the fall or whatnot, but that spinnerbait works constantly. If you got the right conditions, you're going to catch them on it. So chase the wind with that. Catch some big ones. Ozark Flash, I'm going to say 1/2 ounce is my go-to. 3/8 ounce is, 3/8 ounce is a great bait for shallow, current, things like that. But 3/4 really gets down there this time of year. Got a little bit bigger blades on it, a little bit more thump. So try that 3/4 out around some deeper water. 17 to 20 pound Bass Pro Shops fluorocarbon, 6'4", 6'3" to 1 reel, something like that. Keep it slow, keep it steady, experiment with your retrieves until you find what they want. You know, this right here, Chopo, another really good one this time of year. Buzz bait, okay, spook, pop-ar, it doesn't matter. Topwater is really, really good way to catch a big fish right now. My favorites are the Worldwide Buzzer, James Watson's Worldwide Buzzer, 1/2 ounce, black, white. Just use whichever one you prefer. But those are the 2 colors I throw all the time. So it's either black or white for me. But I like a 1/2 ounce, a little bit bigger one this time of year. 3/8 if it's real, real clear, slick, you know, not a lot of disturbance on top of the water, something a little bit more subtle. That 3/8 works good. You can use a gold blade, you can use a silver blade, you can use a black blade. Again, it's all preference. Sometimes it's water conditions. I like a black blade a lot if it's real clear out. I like a gold blade a lot on cloudy days. So really just kind of depends. Those sunny days, that silver blade kind of sneaks up on them. So keep experimenting with that. Some days it makes a huge difference, you know, just those little subtleties, whether you're buzzbait squeaking or clacking or whatever can make a huge difference. So I like mine to make a lot of noise typically. So let's see what other bites we got here. Got a couple more spinnerbaits laid out. I'm gonna have several spinnerbaits and just with different blade combos and just try to figure out which one they're biting. I have that Ozark Flash framed right here on my workbench, and I've got a ton of our Ozark Flash blades in different sizes. So, I'll sit out here and experiment until I find the exact one that they like. But most of the time, they'll eat that 1/2 ounce or 3/4 just right out of the package, as good as anything I can make here in my workshop. Another bait for big fish, works exceptionally well. I'm probably not the best guy to talk about it because I'm not a big swim bait dude, but here it is. This one I believe is a clutch. Great guys. This was given to me by one of the guys at a sports show. So I was over there buying a couple, and they give me one of these, and it's a good bait. It has great action, looks awesome in the water. I've tried to put some time in throwing these big swim baits because everybody tells me when they're on it, it's an amazing bite and catch some big ones. I get a lot of nice fish to follow this. It's a great search bait. Catch a few every now and again, but really I think you need the right conditions for this. Lot of wind, you at least need some wind to break up the surface. I want a little bit more stain in the water probably than what we've had right now. So right now it'd be a great time to throw it. Water's getting cold. Big fish are getting up on the banks. These fish need a big meal to prepare for winter. But I'm fishing this with pretty aggressive action most of the time. You can let it walk kind of side to side, and it looks really natural and awesome. Or you can just kind of fish it with a real erratic action, almost like a jerkbait, or topwater. So that's the way I've been kind of throwing it. Been seeing some good fish. If you get the right conditions, you can catch some big ones. I caught some big spotted bass on it a couple weeks ago. But, good bait, something to practice with, something fun to go out and throw. So try those big swim baits if you're looking for that big bite. Jerkbait, it's going to be coming on strong. Got this, what is this? This is a Vision 110 right here, just a pearl color. Always a good one here. But you're gonna wanna use a lot of your translucent colors, something a little bit more natural in that clear water. And remember, the higher the water temperature, the faster you retrieve. So you can go ahead and bring this thing this time of year. You're not gonna stop it and let it pause for 10 seconds like you might in the spring. You're gonna go ahead and just keep on jerking this thing back to the boat. Again, Garmin Live Scope or Panoptics, whatever they call it now. I've had it for years. It's an effective tool. That Live Scope is just unbelievable for fishing a jerkbait. You can put that bait in front of the fish, see how they react, and ultimately, let you know if they want this color or another color, or maybe your bait's too high over the top of them, or maybe it's running below them. You can learn a lot fishing a jerkbait on the Garmin. So really fun thing to do. I love targeting crappie with it as well, and that's really going to get going too. You're going to start seeing these big schools of crappie and big schools of bass feeding on shad in open water, whether it's on the main lake or back in some of these creeks. They're going to be on the move, around points, wherever that wind's kind of blowing those shad into. Typically is where they're kind of gang up, and they'll move while you're fishing for them. So you kind of got to stay on your trolling motor. You got to stay looking at the Live Scope, and you just got to keep tracking those fish down and try to get some cast in front of them. So I'm using a 6'6" rod, medium action from 6 Gill. It's a Hemdahl series rod. It's a really great jerkbait rod. It's one of my favorites that I've ever used, and got it on a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. And I've learned through the Live Scope that you really want to experiment with line sizes. 10-pound line is going to make that bait run deep, which on some days when the fish are deep is great. Now there's other days that same 10-pound line, I'm going to be throwing below the fish. That lure, the fish are up here, the lure is going below them, and it doesn't draw their attention as well. So depending on how they're positioned in the water column, I'm going to have one with 10, one with 12, one with 15 probably to keep it up high. So just experiment with that. Jerkbait, always a player here at the lake. And it's a player right now. Fish it around points, fish it over brush, look for fish on the Live Scope, troller, get onto the boat, or behind the console rather. I'll get behind the console of my Nitro here, and I'll idle around until I see a lot of activity, which is shad up in the water column. Maybe I'll idle over 4 or 5 fish under the boat in a certain area. I'm just looking for activity. Then I'll put the trolling motor down, look at my Live Scope and see where they're at, see how they're relating to the bait, see where they're moving to. and then, start fishing for them. Sometimes they bite, sometimes they don't. The Panoptics or Live Scope rather is a game changer, but it doesn't solve all your problems. You still got to fish for them. Those fish are still on the move. It just helps you learn so much more about what's going on that particular day. You can just see their mood from day to day. A bite that's really good right now, especially on my guide trips and stuff, is the Fluke. The Fluke is really good. It catches a ton of fish. I fish it high up on the water column. Usually I've got it on a spinning rod with braided line with 10 or 12 pound tests. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of weight to the hook to get it down, but I got a 4/0 or 5/0 Hayabusa. I believe it's a 959. Excuse me. It's a wide gap offset hook, and it adds a lot of weight to this, and it's a great hook for hookups. The line tie is actually below the point of the hook, which is really important when you're using an EWG style hook. You see so many of these, the line tie is here, the hook point is here. You don't hook as many bass. You just don't. I mean, when you're setting the hook and you're bringing that hook point right here out of the fish's mouth, it doesn't have anything to catch. So on a Hayabusa hook, the line tie is right here, the hook point is up here. So when you pull that hook out of the fish's mouth, it catches the roof of their mouth. It's science, it works. So Hayabusa hooks, it doesn't matter what I'm throwing, I always got one on. They've got everything thought out. They make the best hooks available in my opinion, and you know what? They're pretty affordable. They're more affordable than a Gamakatsu or something like that, and they're absolutely great. Great company to work with. So check the Hayabusa hooks out. You will not be disappointed. They are sticky sharp. And, I put them on everything, even my crankbaits. I got the TBL 930s on here, number 2s. And that hook right there is a bad dude. That's the best, sharpest treble hook that I've used. They've got NRB coating on here, which is very slick. If you touch it, it makes the hook slicker. And so the purpose of that is, not only is it sharper, but it's going to penetrate the roof of those fish's mouths a lot easier, which is going to result in more hookups and you catching more fish, which as a tournament angler or a fisherman in general is what you want to do. So take advantage of every opportunity you can to put more fish in the boat. And if buying the best tackle available is that opportunity, then I'm going to do it. And that the Hayabusa hooks are just incredible. Crankbait bite. Crankbaits of all sizes are going to be working, but this is a great time of year to get the wiggle warts back out, your rock crawlers, your crankheads, whatever it is. That 6 to 10 foot, 12 foot crankbait is dynamite this time of year. You can fish a deep diving crankbait though, a shallow square bill. Again, it's about getting around the fish, and it's about bumping this bait into cover. You want to deflect it off the bottom. You want to chase the wind. You want to get around these fish, which means getting around the shad in a lot of instances. So depending on how deep the fish are, that's going to dictate what crankbait I use. If they're sitting on a point in 10 or 15 foot of water, I'm going to use a crankbait that dives 10 or 15 foot deep. If I'm just trying to cover some water, go down some bluff banks or some chunk rocks, some channel banks, I'm going to pick up that wiggle wart or a crankhead or something like that. Something that dives 6 to 12, 10 foot, and I'm just going to throw it up on the bank, cover water. Keep an eye on my electronics and see what's going on out there. So crankbait bite is good. Just experiment with which ones you're using, and that's going to be coming on stronger and stronger. As we get into the 50s more and more, water temperature wise, as we climb into those upper 40s, that's going to be a dynamite bait. And I always love a good crankbait bite. It's one of my favorite things to do. If I can cover water, I'm feeling good about it. So, and then another one is just a jig. This is just a football jig that I picked up off the bottom of my boat. And normally I don't throw a football, but I've thrown this one a little bit. It got the hook bent out a little. But my Trophy Bass Company Pro Jig or the Pro Finesse Jig is probably the two jigs I'm going to reach for. Not even probably. Those are the two jigs I throw 99% of the time. And green pumpkin, brown, black and blue, those are the colors that I throw 99% of the time. So some variation of those, and you'll be good to go. Using just a crawdad trailer. So finesse jig or days where it's really tough, I'll use something without a lot of action, maybe like a Zoom critter crawl or something, just a crawdad that falls down there and looks like a crawdad. You know, something just very, very non-aggressive. But most days I like a little bit of action. I really been liking like a menace, like a Strike King menace or something like that. On the back of a jig, a twin tail, something with a little bit of action is good. You know, you want to get that falling action going on, attract those fish over to the bait. But 1/2 ounce, 5/8 are my go-to sizes. If they're deeper, I'll get that 3/4 ounce out on the pro jig, but 5/8, 1/2 ounce allows me to fish both shallow and deep at the same time. So I really like to stay in that size range. 5/8 is probably my favorite for this time of year. I can fish brush or docks in 10 to 15, 20 foot. And I can also, skip that and fish it shallow behind docks and up on the bank and things like that. So 5/8 ounce green pumpkin, can't go wrong there. And then, that's basically the bite. Finesse jigs, working really well. That's when I use that little Zoom critter crawl and 5/16, 3/8, 7/16, something like that, just depending on how deep you're fishing. But the fish are going to start biting better and better as the weather gets colder and colder, and should be a good fall. You know, hopefully we get a little bit more of this rain, and hopefully it doesn't become winter too fast for us. Because, like I said, favorite time to fish. Crappies are biting, bass are biting, and you just can't pick a better time to be on the water. So I've got some guide trips available. All winter long, I'll be guiding here at the lake, whether you want to go out crappie fishing, catch some big bass, learn your Garmin live scope. We can do it all out there. Just give me a call, shoot me a message, and we can go out there and see what we can't get done. CaseyScanlonFishing.com has more information about my guided trips. And if you're interested in checking out some of the Garmin live scope stuff or purchasing some of that, check out my buddies at Russell Marine Products. Those guys are awesome. They're the most knowledgeable guys in the industry about it. They can install all the electronics that you purchase from them. They can troubleshoot over the phone with you, and they can tell you exactly what you need to buy, based on your needs. So give those guys a call. Russell Marine Products. Not only are they my great friends, but they're the best in the business at what they do. So if you need electronics, a power pole, something like that, call those guys. Wholesale batteries, man, just stopped by there the other day. Got some batteries coming for my new boat. I'm sitting in my 2023 right here, and it's got to go. So if you're in the market for a bass boat, this one's been treated very nicely. It's got fairly low hours on it for me. And I keep care of them. I baby them. And this is a great boat, like all of my nitros. So if you're interested in a boat, I'll make you a deal on this one. But until the next report, I hope you guys go out there, catch a ton of fish. We got some big tournaments this weekend, Anglers in Action Championships going on. So fish ought to be biting. Hopefully it's a good way in for those guys, and we'll see you all next week.